Call the meeting to order, please. I have 7:02. Roll call, please.
Mr. Armstrong?
Here.
Mr. Bonacci?
Here.
Mrs. Powers?
Here.
Mr. Spangler?
Here.
Mrs. Wright?
Here. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we have minutes. The first one is the August 1st, 2012 special meeting, August 13th, 2012 community meeting, August 14th, 2012 special meeting, and the August 27th, 2012 regular board meeting. Make a motion to approve?
I requested that the August 13th be voted on separately, in an email earlier.
And we would need a majority of the board to
No,
change
if
the
anyone can
agenda.
ask for something to separate out.
So if you'd like
Yes.
to make a motion to change the motion to pull out the
Yes, I'd like to
meeting.
pull out the separate.
Okay, is there a second to that?
There's no motion. Anyone can ask for it to be, to pull out an individual.
I have no,
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Pull it out, yes. Yes. There's no motion there. We
Well,
can-
to
we
change
can
the agenda,
request
we take
that
the
each item
majority.
be voted on individually.
It takes a majority of the board. If the entire
No, it
board
does
wants
not.
it changed, we can pull it out.
It does not take a majority of the board, and it's in our bylaws. And we can request, any individual board member may request an item to be voted on individually. Dr. Jones is aware of this when he's requesting people and items within his agenda to be voted on individually.
I have the bylaws. What exactly you say on that?
Nothing new. I've never heard that one before.
I said it's not, it's
Each of yours was employment and mostly personnel. I've never seen it with this procedure.
Well, it's up to the board. If the board wants them voted on separately, then vote on them.
Pardon me?
I don't care. He wants it out. I know why he wants it out. Just put it out, get it done, and move on.
Okay.
Don't really care.
Okay. Okay, so should I separate for the 13th?
Pull that out and
Is there a reason for doing it?
give you the meeting first and then the.
Okay, then I will, again, request that,
And I asked that before.
I'm sorry.
Is there a reason for pulling it out?
That's what
Or
I
just
asked.
say we're just gonna pull it out?
There's gotta be a reason. I think you never got back to the emails.
We're just requesting to be voted on separately. You
But
can
why?
request any member of the board.
I
can
understand
request
what you're saying, but
And I'm
what's-
I'm just requesting that.
You can't say why?
At this point in time, I do not want to say that. I just want to. I'm requesting, because I'm going a little different on that one than I am on the other ones. Does that answer your question?
You know, I asked a few days ago and I never got an answer, so.
I'm going to vote different on that one than I am on the other ones.
Fine. Then I will restate it for the August 1st, 2012 special meeting, the August 14th, 2012 special meeting, and the August 27th, 2012 regular board meeting. Can I get a motion, please? Second, moved by Mr. Spangler, seconded by Mrs. Powers. Roll call.
I couldn't quite hear you. You're going to vote on the 1st, the 14th, and the 27th? Is that what you
Correct.
said? Okay. I'll make sure I can hear you.
Correct.
Mr. Bonacci?
Aye.
Mrs. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Spangler?
Aye.
Mrs. Wright?
Aye.
Mr. Armstrong?
Aye.
Okay, on the August 13th, 2012 community meeting minutes. Can I have a motion, please? So moved? So moved.
Second. That's what you want.
Catch it? I move to approve them, and Mr. Spangler seconded.
Was, okay, are we doing that on special? Is that what we're doing? Is that right?
Yes, on the
All right,
August
all right,
13th
that's
meeting.
okay. All right, let's find out what's going
When you
on.
meet.
Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Spangler?
Aye.
Mrs. Wright? Mr. Armstrong?
Abstain.
Mr. Benacci?
Aye.
Okay, Dr. Jones, you have a presentation?
Yeah, we have two presentations. First, it's my pleasure to introduce Stan Jackson from Ron and Steidel. And they've been doing some work at the bus garage in terms of a storage shed and then some electrical concerns that we have found as a result of that. It's a safety issue in many cases, and also to make sure we're up to code. And so we wanted to present that information to you tonight so you know exactly what's happening.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Russ. There you go. Members of the board, thank you for the opportunity here. This is the bus garage storage building and site electrical improvements project. And we'll just throw that into the slides. Basically, the existing storage facility is pretty temporary, and
Good choice of words.
yeah, it's temporary.
Temporary.
And the desire to make it a more permanent structure, make it a little more aesthetically pleasing, and they are also going to be able to reuse the storage containers once we get the new pole barns built. So,
Can I jump in real quick?
sure, go ahead.
I wanted to mention that we have had an issue with some of our equipment and vehicles sitting outside in the wintertime because there's no storage facility. And that causes wear and tear on them, and rusting and so on and so forth. So there really is a need to have a place where we can store our heavy equipment in the wintertime so it's usable for as many years as possible.
And that's what this building will do. Once we remove the storage containers, you'll get another 16 feet in width there, the same 40 by 40 footprint, and you'll get additional storage underneath there. You can see the truck, you can see the tractor right there, but you'll be able to get more of your vehicles underneath that in that pole barn.
How did they do that without code? I mean, they just put containers there and put trusses on top of them. Is that, am I right?
In a nutshell, yeah, I don't know how that
We did
actually.
it to save money and have money too. So we did a temporary fix for trying to protect, and this is the effort of our maintenance department, and with some donations that were received, that it was set up to try to protect as much as we could with shoestring
But
budget.
I mean, you have to look at safety. When we do stuff like this, we have to look at safety and overall, you know. And I'm looking at some wires coming in up there.
How old is this building?
This is what, this last year, Jason?
Yeah.
2 years?
Thank you.
So we're on the track to do it right, and
Right, that's what this project is about. This project is about cleaning it up and doing some other things. You can see some of the things were quite finished, and it's just what you had to work with at the time, so. The real concern too is there's no foundations, so we're really gonna make this go from a temporary situation to a permanent pole barn condition where it'll have foundations and survive the weather conditions that we have here. Alongside the fence here, the second part of this project is an electrical site improvement package, and school buses are plugged in. This is the back of a bus, but basically the heater blocks are needed to keep these engine blocks warm, and the service needs to be upgraded to those. You can see some of that hanging on the fence there. So that's part of this project as well. We're gonna update that and clean that up. As well, you can see the back of the shed right there needs to be finished. Some of the electrical things, again, just need to be upgraded. So the existing building, I mean, we're gonna build it right in the same location it is right there. You can see it in the upper left-hand corner. That's the site plan, basically. The existing bus garage itself is the large rectangle there in the middle. We are gonna need to be trenching some asphalt. We'll be digging up some asphalt to trench for the new electrical, along the fence up there for the bus garage heaters. It's basically gonna be a vinyl sided asphalt shingle roof. Try to reuse the existing roof assembly that you have right there, the pre-engineered trusses. There's nothing wrong with those. And we feel pretty confident that that can be reused. So, again, this is just a structural.
What size door is it going to have? Is it going to have a 12-foot?
The door down here at the bottom, I believe, is 20-foot opening on it, and it will get a plastic, one of those weighted plastic. What am I thinking of, Jason? That's what we're using.
A curtain?
A curtain, basically a weather curtain, more than a door.
More than a door, you have
Right.
a weather curtain.
It'd be a
on it.
weather curtain, sure. Some structural details just to show you that we did have a structural engineer work this out. And this is the electrical plan. Each one of those power poles is going to have an outlet on it that will serve both of the buses in the adjacent aisles there. So we've tried to condense everything together and with keeping cost in mind as best we can. That's pretty much it.
Okay, and just to debrief the board, Brian and Title are overseeing and prepared this electrical design and site detailing for this project. The bid documents were finalized over a week ago. 2 weeks of bidding legal notices were printed in the Akron Beacon Journal on both Sunday, September 16th, and just yesterday, Sunday, September 23rd. We held a pre-bid meeting this morning at 10 a.m. We had 3 contractors show, answered their questions and took them up to the bus garage to walk them through the details of the project. The bid opening is scheduled for October 1st at noon. Brown and Steidel will review the recommendations and will have a legal review of the contract that will be brought forward to the board October 8th at the community meeting for your approval. Once your approval is in place, we can proceed with this project, and the hope is to get it done and completed before the snow flies. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask Stan. Thank you, Stan, for presenting that to everybody.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Hopefully we'll end up with a much better structure.
Dr. Joe?
Yep, thanks again. We have a second presentation, and this is from Mr. Jeff Burns from Dovetail Solar. And I know he came in, there he is. Hi, Jeff. Mr. Spangler and Mr. Armstrong and I met with Mr. Burns over lunch, and we appreciate that opportunity. And we've been talking about the option of having solar panels as a way to save dollars for our taxpayers in terms of our energy costs. And so we wanted to make sure we were looking at other companies, and we met with Jeff and asked him to come do a public presentation for us so he could present the program and give us an opportunity to ask any questions.
Thank you. I'm going to cross my fingers that this all gets hooked up properly, so I have something to speak to. Thank you very much, Dr. Jones and the rest of the board. I appreciate your time here tonight. I did enjoy our recent conversation. I think this is an important topic that we're discussing here, which is helping schools transition to a clean fuel source of power as opposed to, of course, fossil fuels. Let's see if we can get this up. Excellent, thank you.
Very good.
Okay, and I do have a laser pointers that's gonna help a couple things, and you'll bear with me. I know I had kind of short notice to prepare, and I want to make clear that I'm here tonight really because I believe in what I do with renewable energy. And I want to just kind of give some guidance as you consider this question. I'm really not here. I'll speak a little bit about our company and what we do, but that's not my purpose here. It's just to kind of open it up and let you understand how we approach different things. So let me, so first off, just one quick factoid. I think this is very important when we talk about solar power. Most people don't realize this, but when we look at solar power, particularly when we're talking about a system that can power your schools for the next 25 to 30 years, the Earth receives in 1 hour enough power from the sun to power the entire world for up to a year. 1 hour worth of sunshine powers the entire Earth. So it's not a question of are the fuels there, it's a question of the equipment to harvest those fuels, and that's what the solar panels are able to do for us. That's usually one that people, anyhow, real quick, I'm with Dovetail Solar and Wind. We were founded back in 1995, one of the oldest, largest renewable energy design firms in the state. We do a number of different technologies. Primarily, I would say 95% of our business is that first one, which is solar electric, also known as PV or photovoltaics, which is that picture that you can see right in there. Those are solar panels. We also do solar thermal hot water, although that's not quite as popular, shall we say, just because of the offset with natural gas. When you're heating your water with natural gas, it's really not economically viable in this part of the country right now. Wind power, we do some wind turbines as well. We have offices across this state, up in Detroit. We've installed over 220 renewable energy systems. We now have a little over 40 Ohio residents as employees in the company. I've been with Dovetail 2.5 years.
You're on Route 50 in Athens.
Yes.
I was in Ohio, yesterday. I drove by on 50. I looked at myself, solar with it. That's all right,
That's where it all started. So I've been with Dovetail 2.5 years. I actually started about 7 years in the solar and wind business out in Idaho, Boise, Idaho. I moved here. So that's our company photo from back in June. This will just give you a quick, just kind of lay a basis for what we do and where our experience is coming from. We've done quite a few schools. Schools tend to be up and coming in terms of our customer base. Some of you may or may not recognize these schools. There's Orange High School up in the left-hand side. 18, that stands for kilowatts. Also 1,000 watts, 18,000 watts of power. We've gone down as small as, this is Garfield Heights High School. This is a 1 kW, it's 1,000 watts. And the principal of the school, true story, was so committed to getting solar in his school, he wasn't able to just say get certain things lined up. He actually was able to do something out of his petty cash fund at the high school. So he was able to get solar power in front of the high school there. Newcomerstown Elementary, that's called a ground mount. So the roof wasn't, you can see there was a slight peak in the roof. So because of that, we decided to put the system out in the field next to the school there. One of our recent large projects in the area, just down the road, we bid on a project down in Akron, the city of Akron, schools down there. We actually did 2 systems for them. The first system was at the National Inventors Hall of Fame, which is that building there on the lower left, and this is the roof of that building. And then out a little bit from downtown, there was the Higher Community Center, which was a much larger system. So I just took a few shots from the Higher Community Center. This was a 105 kW system, or 105,000 watts of solar. That's the inverter that's mounted in the mechanical room behind the gymnasium. That is the device that actually brings all the power off the roof and converts it from DC to AC. so it's usable within the school. And then this is pretty much what it looks like up on the roof with the self-ballasted, array. I'll explain a little bit more about what that means because it's important, because we're not penetrating the roof of this system. Whether it's a corporation or a school or whatever, one of the main concerns people have is, are you putting holes in the roof? And the answer is no. These systems are self-ballasted so that up to 90 mile an hour wind load as well. So they will stay in place. Newcomers Town High School, we did 131 kW array on that roof there. As you can see, the reason it's laid out, you'll see like little holes there. That's generally because we'll get an HVAC hood or something, and we have to put panels around it. Another one down in Worthington, 68 kW. We also have the largest solar array in the state of Kentucky. This is in northern Kentucky. It's a 385 kW system, and as of today, it remains the biggest system. The reason this looks a little bit different, this is these rows right here, as well as this one right over the front entrance, are polysilicon panels, probably what you're familiar with seeing, the typical looking solar panels. Everything that you see a little bit darker, that is called thin film, a little bit less efficient, but used in areas where there's some obstruction. So that's why you see a little bit different. And this is what a typical system on a roof looks like. You notice the ballast blocks that are lined up here. So there are no holes in this roof whatsoever. We've got conduit running off the end and then over the side to the mechanical room. One of the things to consider when you are putting in a solar array is monitoring. And we do really two types of monitoring. This is a web-based, this is a screenshot from it's actually a company we installed down near Columbus, but each system that we put in gets monitoring so you can see real-time production. Students would be able to see real-time production of what solar power is being made. We also have metrics in terms of over here the environmental benefits, how much the offset is, et cetera, et cetera. And then through our Athens office, our home office down there, we actually monitor, this is an older shop, it's about 33 systems, 34 systems, but we now have over 100 systems that we monitor real time around the state so that we can tell when an inverter, generally it's an inverter, if anything's going to go wrong on a solar system, you might have an inverter that needs attention, but that's a real-time monitoring of systems around the state that we do. So we'll talk about solar financing briefly, because that's truly, it's good to look at all the nice pictures and all that, but the question is how do you get it up on the roof and pay for it, and that's really what it boils down to. So there's really two routes you can take. Us being up at the top there is the integrator. It's Dovetail Solar and Wind. We would design and build the system. Off to your right, you see a circle there called PPA provider. That stands for Power Purchase Agreement. That's a third party that completely purchases the system, owns the system, and maintains the system for you for a set number of years, whether it's 10, 20 years. And then there's generally a buyout offered to the school at some point for fair market value is typically how it's termed. Or the other route is we do see schools that have taken leasing companies such as Key Bank or PNC Bank in the state. They are two of the primary banks that work with us when doing these type of arrangements. But it's an operating lease where the bank takes the tax credits. Obviously, the school would be able to take that, and they pass along those savings to the school so that they can own the system eventually. And then kind of explains down at the bottom there. The PPAs are typically written, as I said, 10, 15, 25 years. Solar panels on top of any building are warranted for 25 years, so you can see the longevity of needing an agreement to get them up there. Again, this is just kind of gives you a breakdown of how these work. Each box for you, but you can, in essence, see a system purchase being just a direct purchase. We do have those. There are companies that, because of their sustainability mission, they will contact us and just purchase the system outright. But again, for nonprofits like schools, we generally are working with either a power purchase agreement or an operating lease. And then, not to delve into a very complex subject, but in the state of Ohio, host sites or PPA investors are able to obtain and resell something known as solar renewable energy credits. They're also known as SRECs. And these are tied to the state's requirement for utilities to generate a certain amount of power using green attributes, solar, wind, biogas. There's also a carve-out for energy efficiency. And when a solar system, which has a meter on it, solar PV array, generates a kilowatt hour, the host site or the PPA investor is giving credit for that, and eventually, almost like a stock certificate, you're handed a generation certificate that you can then resell for a form of income. And that gives you an example at the bottom there, what one of those looks like. Okay, to be specific, because that's what we basically met on and talked about. So let me, I decided to focus just on one school so we could kind of have a discussion, and I'd like to see, what questions there are. I can do this for all the schools, but I focused on this one in particular. So I took the Fish Creek Elementary, I took the last power bill that I was given, so a full year's worth of bills. This is the total amount of kilowatt hours that were consumed for that year. And in the next slide, you'll see, I think we averaged about 10,400 kilowatt hours a month. Your demand charge there, for those of you that aren't familiar, it's the utilities way of, they go to a site and they ask, what's the maximum amount of power you feel you'll have in a given month. And then if you exceed that, your rate increases somewhat with the utility. So solar is able to help offset that, because by having solar on your roof, you're actually able to keep your demand charges down. Solar is feeding the building simultaneously and actually lowering your demand charge. I know that's a lot of information, so I don't really want to take the time up to it unless that comes up in a question. And there's all the costs there, your total for the year, but this is probably the most important picture. This is the one I spent time on today. So this is a Google Earth shot of your Fish Creek Elementary, and we have more than enough room here on this roof. What stands out right away is just by using these two red boxes here, I could comfortably, that's about 18,000 square foot of rooftop right in these two boxes combined. I mean, I've still got some over here if I needed it. The building averages based on the bills I was given, as I said, 10,000. That's what the building currently today is consuming with the utility. So if we were to put a 100 kW system on there, that system would output roughly 90 to 98% of, nearly 100% of what the building is using. So it would be almost 100% offset. And this is just for the benefit of, so you understand, what the investors are looking at. But a system this size today, ballpark, would probably cost a turnkey system about $375,000 to $425,000, and then we go from there as to finding the investor. But this is, this is really the nuts and bolts of what a school like this would take to get about 100% solar power, or nearly 100%. The reason we don't build to 100%, just so you know, is like any building, schools, office buildings, etc. You have a transformer outside; it's a certain size. You cannot exceed that transformer rating. Meaning we can't over-deliver what the transformer will handle, or we have to negotiate with the utility to put in a larger service for the building. So we typically keep our design sizes down below that. But the last slide I'm going to show you here is my suggestion tonight. I started out by saying I'm not really here to promote ourselves as being a company that's chosen here to do this kind of work. I think the most fair way to approach this type of project, and I know you've had a presentation from another solar company, but we deal with a lot of RFPs. We've won a lot of the city of Akron, a school in Kentucky. We just won one from Kensington schools. But really the best way to handle any kind of large solar project like this is to put out a request for proposal and go that route. I can't stress that enough. There's so much complexities. Not so much on the design side. There are good companies out there. We're not the only one. There are people that can come up on the roof and design these for you. But really what you're looking at is the whole package, and that comes down to financial. I mean, we do things, for example, the monitoring is a big part. We bring the actual education into the classroom for the students. We help the teachers bring in education-related curriculum so that it's not just something that's making power up there, the students actually understand. And I got to tell you, I work with quite a few schools, and students are into this. And they have a lot of questions, and they want to see this, and they want to understand it. So we're a company, and we would, if you put out an RFP, we certainly would be one of the companies that would like to bid on it. And, but I just think that to get the best value for what's being offered, we need to see from a number of companies to just see what's being offered. So that would be my suggestion. So I'd like to see if there's any questions. I'd be happy to try and answer those for you.
If I could just real quickly, as superintendent, I'm always trying to look at where we can save money. And one of the areas we've looked at is energy education savings, and that's still on the table. And then we've also looked at solar. And as you know, you referenced Solar Planet is the other company that did a presentation for us. And my initial reaction was, I'm interested in solar, but when they came at us with, it's not going to cost you anything to start it, to maintain it, to keep it, and they're going to guarantee us savings below what we're spending now. And to me, that was, it was almost a no-brainer that, it's at the worst, it's a break even. If we get, anything plays in our favor, we're going to save dollars. So that made some sense to me. But then as we got into this, we wanted to look at other companies and see what, what you guys have to offer. So, I mean, is there some, and they have a PPA that's, their owner, and so the dollars are ready to go there. So I just wanted to, and we've talked, so I just wanted to kind of, just in general, where are you with that, and,
Well, I didn't come here tonight, I wasn't prepared to, in essence, offer
Sure.
a PPA, because that does take some time, and we really have to understand what all the billing. You saw I just took the fish creek, and that alone takes some time to figure out what the building would handle. But that's the process of an RFP, where you actually go through all the buildings. You have to actually do a site survey at each location. It may not be optimal. We've got roof ages to deal with, we've got structural issues. If the roof can't handle it, maybe there's an acre or two off to the side that's not being utilized at that newcomer's town. But realistically, the schools that we deal with, our goal is to usually take a look at what they're currently paying for power, and that's usually a generation-only number. We don't affect the transmission and distribution as much because we're making our power on the roof. But most commercial, say industrial rates can be anywhere from about 5 to 6, 7, 5 to 8 cents per kilowatt hour. So we'll take a look at that number, and we will try to match up as close as we can to what the school is currently paying. And then, the PPA would be set for a term of, generally it's 10 years. The buyout, in today's market, I pointed out the SRECs, and it's again a very technical subject as to, the SREC market is currently depressed, meaning that the prices of SRECs have gone down substantially. There's a very large supply of solar projects in the state of Ohio versus what the utilities are being required to buy in terms of green power. That may change. Just as a quick example, the state of New Jersey recently had the same situation where they were starting to build a lot of solar projects, and the SREC market started going down, and a lot of people were having trouble keeping their companies going, solar, wind, etc. They actually changed the RPS, the Renewable Portfolio Standard in the state, to make the solar carve out higher, the demand from the utilities higher, and that is stabilize the market. So if something like that would happen, it would put the PPAs back in a position where we could probably come in and offer you a PPA rate, at or even slightly below what you currently pay for power. But we're not in that position today as a company, I can tell you, just because of the SRECs. There are companies you referenced, like Solar Planet. There's a couple I know on the West Coast that I deal with that have such a large tax appetite for these type of projects, the credits and the depreciation, that they are willing to forego some of that SREC income that is low right now in the state of Ohio and actually do the project, even if it means a break-even point until they're hoping at some point the power rates come back up. Maybe it's on the buyout that they're going to make some of their money back. So the only thing I would say with some of these folks that have these large tax appetites, what happens a lot of times, you get a group or an individual that wants to offload tax liability, and solar is a very safe way to do that. It's a guaranteed stream of income for the next 10, 15, 20 years. What you want to look at is the team they've assembled to build the projects. I mean, just what equipment are they using? Are they using Chinese solar modules, for example, or US-made solar modules? Are they bringing in labor from out of state? Are they using Ohio residents? But you want to look very closely at what they're offering in terms of equipment, warranties, just buyer beware, is what I'm stressing.
And if I could interject, I appreciate Mr. Burns, your suggestion that we go out for an RFP. By law, if the board was going to invest $25,000 or more, by law, we would have to go out for public bid and request for proposal. Based on the information from Solar Planet, there was not going to be any cost to the board, which would be why there hasn't been an official RFP sought. So I want to make sure that that was clear to you. We're not overlooking what our Ohio Revised Code mandates. It was that it was an advantage to the board because there would not be cost.
I feel that that wasn't the point I was trying to make. The point was that there are a lot of companies out there, and we were told that, this PPA was unique, and that was put on. And we got into it, and I found out that PPAs were popular, and especially I was amazed with these SRECs, these state refundable energy credits, the secondary market. I didn't realize that there was a secondary market out there. And the more we, there was a lot of questions, we met that were answered as we went along on this. And I just feel, we need to continue to look at this. Solar may be the way to go. Maybe we want to take a small step in doing one school or something like that. Once we've looked at a couple different companies and that, like Highland or Fish Creek. Now, the thing is, my question was, okay, it was $375,000 roughly to put in Fish Creek. Now, over 25 years at about 10, if economics stayed the same, we spend about $10,000 a year there. And right now, for energy, so that's $250,000 that we'd have. So that deficit, would they get enough, the PPA, the company who held the PPA, would they get enough revenue so that, say, in 10 years or 15 years, what would the buyout typically be in 10 to 15 years? What percentage of that $365,000? You have some number in mind? Or?
Well, based on the way that the tax codes are written, no PPA provider can state the purchase price at the end of the term. What they have to state is buyout will be at fair market value, which is basically an assessor coming in and assessing what value is left in the property and what kind of power it can produce. That being said, because that never satisfies people with that answer, we generally see a buyout in the range of 10 to 15% of the original cost. So that's not a hard number I'm giving you. I'm just sharing with you what we've seen in the past as a buyout, 10 to 15% of the original installed
What
cost.
was it, like a 10-year or 15-year? General.
Term of the PPA?
Yeah.
Generally,
I mean, before you get the buyout, 10 or 15.
7 to 10 years is generally when a buyout's off.
So if I were to have a 10-year, then I'm thinking 365,000, about $50,000, $55,000 buyout at the end of, say, 10 years, and I would pay, say, $10,000 or $12,000 a month, a year for the first 10, so I'd have 100, and I basically would have $160,000 in that. That's all, right?
Right, and the system would have about a 15, at 10 years, it'll have about a 15 to 20-year lifespan left at the end. So you're basically producing power.
But I really would be buying that $10,000. How would that work then? I have the $10,000, I paid the $10,000, but would I be getting money back during the summer months, right?
You would be earning,
be over-generating.
right, you'd be over-generating, so you'd be earning credits. So the credits are banked with utility.
I can't really compare my $10,000 a month or $120,000 a year cost today, because I'm going to get a credit on that too.
At the end of the year, that depends on, I think, the first energy year. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, we have yes, First Energy here, but we have purchase agreement, so I don't know. I guess it would sell to First Energy.
If we buy the system, the 7 to 10 year window, who's responsible for maintaining it?
Monitoring also.
Well, the monitoring, so monitor something we do, we can keep the
Always?
monitoring. Yes, always.
But who maintains it?
We would maintain, now, it would be a contract, it would be a service contract. But at that point, you're the owner of the system.
Would it cost us money?
It would cost you money. Yes.
Like lots of money or a little bit of money? Or
Well,
a medium amount of money?
the reason I'm in the solar business is things don't break. So really, we have 220 systems, and if we go out once or twice a month to go look at a system out of all those, solar panels just don't break. Inverters here and there have maybe an issue, but an LED light burns out, and we'll get a warning light.
See, there's a little bit of a concern about, we're an educational system, we're academic achievement. We're looking at the benefits of solar, and we're hoping we can make this work. There's no cost, and we can save money, great. But I'm concerned about getting into a position down the road where it's ours. I'm calling my maintenance guy saying, hey, what do you know about solar panels? Because they're not working, you know what I mean? So is there any safeguard for us if we had to buy out the system?
Other than historical, looking at all the schools around the country that do this, and the buyouts that they've had, and the issues that they've had after buying it out. I mean, it comes down to research and seeing these systems just with a 25-year warranty on the panels themselves for output. And the way that works is at the end of 25 years, the manufacturers guarantee a 80% output in the original nameplate rating. So if you have a 100-watt panel, that panel should output about 80 watts at the end of 25 years. It's 90% at the end of 10 years. Inverters now are under warranty for 20 years. So the manufacturers are stepping up and saying, we know this stuff doesn't break. We know that, and because of questions like yours, they had to step up and say, we're even going to put our money where our mouth is on for these warranties. So just, the operations and maintenance part of it. The biggest thing you do with a system like this, and we get enough precipitation where that's not even required, but maybe once a year you're cleaning off the panels. Someone's up there, with a squeegee or something. But even that, precipitation is a big that. But that's enough to clean those panels. So you really don't have to do much with it. I would consider that an extremely low concern if I was in your position. I mean, it's a good question, but fortunately for us, it's not an issue.
I got a question. Obviously, I'm a big supporter of this, but my biggest concern is, okay, we're in year 5, we got this on top of Fish Creek School. We got roof repair we got to do. So we take your system offline. What's our liability? Because your income now is cut off. And based on what I see in the high school here, we're on our 3rd month on the roof up here, we're working on our 2nd month. So what is going to be our liability when we take your income offline?
That's a great question. That's one of the major ones that comes up when you deal with these large roofs. So to start, and that's why I indicated, such as in an RFP, we are very careful up front as to where we put solar. We walk away from jobs all the time because the roof needs some level of repair, whether it's just a treatment on the roof or whether there's structural issues on the roof. We have to make sure we're putting a 20, 25, 30-year piece of equipment up there. So that's first and foremost. In the event that you do have an issue on the roof, things happen. We're not penetrating the roof, but other things happen. All of these systems, as I indicated, are self-ballasting. It's like a big Lego set, literally. So we generally build these where there's enough roof space where if you've got a corner of the roof that is your problem area, we come in, we take the system offline, and we move it so you can do your repairs. There is, in the PPA, there is a section that addresses that, however, because you're absolutely right. Once that system goes offline, those PPA investors are not making money. The system's not generating power, thus you're not buying it, and the meter's not spinning, making the mess rights. That's another source of income. So there's a paragraph that states that if, this is hypothetically, one of your workers drops a piece of equipment, puts a hole in the roof, now for that reason you have to take the system offline, there are damages that would have to be paid based on the system being offline. So,
I saw that, yeah, when I first saw that was the solar panels, remember, in
Well, I'm sure
in
it
their
does.
contract, they had that same type of thing. So that's probably pretty standard across the industry when you do a PPA, because it's, none of this is free equipment. It's basically their equipment. We're leasing space to them, basically, and allowing them to use our area, our equipment, our geographical area to put their equipment. Basically, they own it, and for a period of time, and we guarantee, am I right? And then we say, well, we will purchase this electricity that it generates. So basically, we're just leasing real estate to them.
so, but there's a
I get that there's still a risk.
It is. I mean, there's no doubt.
No matter how we look at it with a PPA agreement, that's what that would be.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burris, so much for
Thanks a lot.
coming and
Very informative.
explaining that to us. We appreciate it. Sure, thanks. Okay, we'll move on with the treasurer's
Okay,
report recommendations.
thank you. Item A, 5A is the financial report. Wish to recommend the Board of Education approve the financial report for August 2012 as presented in Exhibit Number 1.
So moved.
Second?
It was moved by Mrs. Wright and seconded by Mr. Armstrong. Roll call.
Mr. Spangler.
Aye.
Mrs. Wright.
Aye.
Mr. Armstrong.
Aye.
Mr. Panacci.
Aye.
Mrs. Powers.
Aye.
Item 5B, the check register for August on the record. I wish to recommend the Board of Education approve the the check register for August 2012 is presented in Exhibit Number 2.
So moved.
Second.
It was moved by Mr. Armstrong and seconded by Mr. Bonacci. Roll call.
Mrs. Wright?
Aye.
Mr. Armstrong?
Aye.
Mr. Bonacci?
Aye.
Mrs. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Spangler?
Aye.
Item C, permanent appropriation resolution for fiscal year 2013. I wish to recommend the Board of Education approve the permanent appropriation resolution for fiscal year 2013 as presented in Exhibit Number 3.
So moved.
Second?
It's moved by Mr. Bonacci, I'm sorry, what's the
Spangler.
correct? Mr. Spangler and seconded by Mr. Armstrong. Roll call.
Mr. Armstrong?
Aye.
Mr. Bonacci?
Aye.
Mrs. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Spangler?
Aye.
Mrs. Wright?
Aye.
That concludes my portion of the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this time we'll have comments from the audience. When you come up, please address the board with your name and your address. Address the board, not the audience, and please refrain from addressing your comments to anyone in particular or calling them by name. First person is Mark Chestnut. Is that correct? I'm sorry.
Chestnut, yeah.
Please come to the microphone.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure who I would direct questions to, but just for my own edification, first question is, I'd like to understand the protocol of executive session meetings. What is the protocol? What is the notification, the minute requirements? How does that work exactly?
Basically, this is a commentary kind of portion. It's not really questions. Catherine?
The executive session, first of all, the board's meeting is the board conducting its business in public, first of all. There are specific reasons that the board can exit from public session into an executive session for certain purposes, which we're always careful, this board always does. There are no minutes and no consensus can be taken in the executive session. They would come back out to public session in order to take any action if there's need be.
So there's no notification requirement?
The notification requirement for the board is the date, time, and place of where there is going to be a quorum of the board conducting business in front of the public. That's the only requirement.
I guess that goes to my next question is, has there ever been passed an executive session that was conducted without the knowledge of all the board members or whomever is supposed to be informed according to what protocol is set for that?
No, every agenda that the board comes to the meeting with has potential for an executive session, and all of the board is aware of that each meeting.
So we have a modification that you're going to make for an executive session that you have proposed, that's correct?
No.
I'm not
No
sure I
modification of
understand.
minutes or changes of minutes?
I don't know, I'm not exactly sure what you're referring
We're
to.
supposed to limit this to comments and questions. If you want to call Catherine at another time, that would be great.
Or
Well, I
email
thought I addressed it
questions
to the
or-
board, is that an issue?
That's not an issue, but you can, this is our meeting in public. This isn't a part of question and answer. It's comments from the audience.
Okay, well, my second comment then is about the filing of property revisions for tax purposes.
Have you spoken to the treasurer about that?
Pardon me?
Have you spoken to Mrs. Bogert about that?
I was speaking to the board about it, because I'd like to speak publicly about it. And the legal expenditures of sending an attorney from Dublin, Ohio, to 2525 State Road to hear a property revision, and the expense that's associated with that. Is that procedure? Is that typical?
Yes, it is, the board does do due diligence to preserve tax income. They know it's a big portion of the funding for the school district. And the efforts that the board has made in those tax complaint filings have well and more paid for the legal expenses that have been involved.